Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ty and this is Ty's Table Talk. I'm here to share my thoughts and opinions on the latest episodes of the reality shows we all love to watch. I'm here to bring you clothing hauls. I'm here to give you a little glimpse into a little part of my life and share some stories about some of my life experiences, which is what this video is about today. Welcome to Storytime Sunday. And today's story time, it's a story that's been on my heart to share for a while now. It's been on my heart to tell this story because I know I'm not the only one who has experienced something like this. So today's story time is about what I like to call my near-death experience. And I know this may not be everybody's cup of tea. So if you don't watch this all the way through, I completely understand. But what I will say is that if you are spiritual and if you do believe in the afterlife, please continue to watch because this is something that may hit home for you or help you gain a little bit better insight about what's waiting for us on the other side. So let me start from the beginning. Back in 2015, I had a surgery, a bariatric surgery, vertical sleeve gastrectomy. And everything went off without a hitch with that surgery. And I've had several surgeries. And I've never had any kind of fear or anxiety about having surgery, about being put under anesthesia. My friends and family would ask me if I was nervous before having surgery. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to go be put under anesthesia, get some good sleep, okay? And wake up and be fine. Be healthier than I was before I went under, right? That's always been my attitude when it comes to surgeries. So I had the surgery in 2015. Everything went fine. In, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 weeks after that surgery, I started having a lot of facial pain on the right side of my face. And I can only describe the pain as being like an earache, a toothache, and a headache all at the same time. It was very intense. And so I immediately thought that I had something going on with one of my teeth. I thought something was going on in my mouth. It felt more like a toothache, but the headache was banging. So anyway, I went to the dentist and they said, oh yeah, it looks like you need a root canal, but it looks like you may have an infection. So what we're going to do is give you some antibiotics. We're going to have you take this for a week or so and then come back in and have the root canal done. And I'm like, cool, because I wanted to be out of that pain. At this time, I was working for a very well-known health insurance company overnight, working 10-hour shifts. And so I had taken that antibiotic, completed the course. The pain was still very, very prevalent though. I thought that maybe if it was an infection, once the infection cleared up, that the pain would go away, but it just got more intense. So I remember getting off one morning and going back to the dentist and asking for another round of antibiotics. I didn't think the infection was cleared up because the pain was so bad. And they told me no, they would not give me any more antibiotics. They told me I needed to have the root canal ASAP. So my plan was to go back home because I had went there right after work, which was like, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. My plan was to go home, get sleep that day so I could wake up, go to work that night, and then go back to the dentist the following day to have the root canal done. Well, I went home after the dentist, went to sleep, woke up that night to get ready to go to work, and went to go swallow some water. I had water sitting next to me on my nightstand, and the water just ran out the right side of my mouth. And it didn't feel right. So I immediately jumped up, looked in the bathroom mirror, and the whole right side of my face was drooping. And I was scared. I was so scared. I thought I had had a stroke. So I immediately jumped in my car, went to the emergency room. They rushed me back to the exam room, and they said, well, we don't believe that you've had a stroke. They had me do a couple of physical tests to kind of rule that out. They had me raise my eyebrows up, smile, do all that. And they said, okay, it actually looks like you have come down with a case of Bell's palsy. Y'all, I didn't know what Bell's palsy was. All I knew was cerebral palsy. So I'm like, oh, what's going on with me? It's like, is this really, really serious? Like, am I going to need surgery? Like, what's going on? And they said, no, it's facial paralysis. And it just happens sporadically. There's no rhyme or reason for it, but it was on the right side of my face at this time. So I asked the doctor, well, is the pain that I'm having related to the Bell's palsy? And they did not know. They had no idea. They didn't have a lot of information about Bell's palsy. So the doctor said, well, I don't believe that it is, but we're going to have you do a CT scan just to make sure everything is okay. And it's a great thing that I did have the CT scan, because they found what's called a carotid body paraganglioma. It's a tumor that was growing right here in the right side of my neck, where the carotid artery kind of branches off and splits off into a Y. And the tumor was sitting right there where the carotid artery splits. And so they said, well, we don't believe that the facial pain is related to that, but you need to follow up with a specialist, because those tumors typically have to be removed. So I went to go see a specialist like a week or so later, and they also didn't believe that was the cause of my facial pain. And it turns out that with Bell's palsy, the nerves in your face are damaged. And so it was nerve pain that I was experiencing. But again, the doctors didn't have much information about that. The tumor wasn't large enough for them to remove at that time. So they said, okay, we're just going to monitor it. So fast forward to 2021. I had been diagnosed with having multiple thyroid nodules and a goiter on the left side of my thyroid. I also had some on the right. And I had had them biopsied several times over the course of maybe 10 years. And the nodules were always benign, but they continued to grow. And I started experiencing symptoms of having hoarseness, trouble swallowing, tightness in my throat. And so they said, well, at this point, the nodules are large enough that we need to go ahead and remove the left side of your thyroid. And they referred me to a specialist, a neck surgeon, who specializes in removing carotid body paraganglioma tumors, because that surgery is very, 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 very tricky. And it could cause you to have elevated blood pressure, heart attacks, and pass away. So I went in and met with this surgeon, had a consultation. I felt very, very comfortable with him doing the surgery. And he was a wonderful, wonderful surgeon. I went in July of 2021 and had the left side of my thyroid removed, along with this right side carotid body paraganglioma tumor removed. Sorry, y'all, it's late. I'm stumbling over my words a little bit, but I had that tumor removed. And everything was fine with that surgery. Again, no fear, no anxiety, nothing like that. I stayed in the hospital for a couple of nights just so they could monitor my blood pressure and make sure I was good. And they sent me home with a drain in my neck. Went back to see the surgeon's assistant, the nurse practitioner that was working under that surgeon. A couple of days later, they removed the drain, went home. Everything was good that day. The next day, I started not to feel so hot. I started feeling flushed. I felt feverish. But I just thought, well, maybe I'm coming down with something. The next day, I started feeling even worse. And one of my good girlfriends, my sister friend, came over. Her and her daughter came over to check on me and noticed that I had had some swelling. And so they were like, oh, we're going to leave and let you get some rest, so you can heal up. And over the course of just a few hours, the swelling became more prominent. I noticed it. The area was very hot to the touch. And by 7 o'clock that evening, the swelling had gotten so bad, it looked like I had swallowed like a baseball. Okay, like I had a big mass, it looked like, sitting right here on the right side of my neck. So I decided to go to a standalone emergency room, which is part of the same healthcare system for the facility that I had the surgery at. And they took one look at me and they were like, you're going to have to go back to the hospital where you had your surgery. We just don't have the equipment here that we need to do a correct physical exam on you and see what's going on. And we suspect that you have an infection. So we're going to have you go back to that facility so they can get in contact with your surgeon. At that time, I had a little small kitten named Miles. And I didn't want to leave him at the house, at my apartment overnight by himself like that. So I had called my friend and asked her if she would be willing to go and just kind of check in on my cat and feed the cat and make sure he was good. And she watched a lot of YouTube videos where people would have like infections drained or like the pimple popping video. She was really into that type of stuff. So she was like, I will go and check on your cat, but can I go to the hospital with you? And number one, it was far away. So she wanted to make sure I was going to be able to get there okay. So she wanted to follow me out there. And number two, if it was an infection that they had to open me up and drain, she kind of wanted to see it. So I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. I didn't care. So I was grateful that she cared enough to actually make sure that I got out to the facility okay. So I drove out there and they got in contact with the surgeon and they sent in his partner who also kind of specialized in these things. And his partner actually happened to be the physician that I saw who followed up with me with the Bell's palsy. So he had a lot of knowledge when it comes to tumors of the neck and things of that sort. So they said, well, we're going to have to open you back up. We're going to have to put you back under. We're going to have to open you back up to drain out that infection and to make sure that everything is okay with the carotid artery. So I was fine with that. I was ready to start feeling better again. At this point, I was in a lot of pain with that neck area. And I was just ready to feel better. So they put me under. And y'all, when I've had surgeries in the past and have been put under, it's like they give you the anesthesia, you're knocked out, it's all darkness, and then boom, you're awake. Suddenly you're awake. I never dream. I never have any visions or anything like that. Like I don't dream when I go under surgery. It's like they give you the stuff, you're out, and then you're awake again. This time was completely different. So they put me under, I was out. And then the next thing I knew, I was awake, but I was in a field of wildflowers with a big tree kind of a little bit off in the distance in front of me. And just as sure as I'm sitting here in this chair right now, that's how sure I am that I was sitting in a field of wildflowers, of yellow wildflowers. And y'all, I could not see myself. I couldn't see anything that was going on. Like right now, I can stick my arm and my hand out in front of me and see it. But when I was sitting in that field, I could not see anything. I couldn't see my physical self. I was sitting there Indian style. And I knew I was sitting there Indian style, but again, I couldn't look down and see my legs crossed. I couldn't see that. All I saw were the flowers in front of me. And I knew I was waving my hands over these flowers, right? But I couldn't see my hands. But I knew I was waving my hands over them, feeling them. And it just felt nice. And I knew the wind was blowing. The wind was blowing. I could feel that there was a breeze, but I couldn't physically feel it. But I just knew there was a breeze. I could feel it, but I couldn't physically feel it. I know that's not making a lot of sense, but I'm just describing to you what my experience was. I could feel it, but I could not feel it. And the sun was bright and just beautiful. And I could feel the warmth of the sun, but I could not physically feel it, but I just felt it, and it just felt nice. And I sat there for hours, like a whole afternoon. I was sitting in this field, just at peace. I just felt so much peace. And I just thought, wow, this is so nice. Like, this is so beautiful. And then I kind of started looking around me and veering off into the distance, and I saw the sky and the colors in the sky. I can't even describe it. It was like a rainbow, but it was so much more intense. The purples, the blues, the yellows, the reds, the oranges. I saw so many colors in this sky. And I could see like a horizon. And I just thought, the colors are so beautiful. This field is so beautiful, and it just feels so great to be here. I really want to walk over and see what's behind this horizon. So I didn't stand up. It almost kind of felt like I started floating up. And as I was floating up, I could start to see over the flowers in this field. And I could see a little bit further off into the horizon. And then I saw these little bunnies that were popping up out of this field, out of the wildflowers. And y'all know this sounds crazy, but they were waving at me. It's like they were smiling. And I was so ecstatic to see these bunnies. I was so overjoyed. Like, when I think about how overjoyed I was and can feel that physical sensation in me right now, it's overwhelming. I was just like, oh my God, the bunnies, oh my God. I love like this, the bunnies, oh my God. I was just ecstatic, overjoyed. And they were just as equally ecstatic and overjoyed to see me. And more of them started coming up out of this field and showing themselves. All while this is happening, I'm still kind of floating up higher and higher. So now I'm floating over this field. And I'm floating up higher and higher. And I'm starting to look down on the bunnies, and they're getting further and further away from me. But then it's almost kind of like they were saying, okay, bye, see you next time. It's like, I could hear them saying it, right? But of course they're bunnies, so it's like they weren't speaking, but it's like I could hear them saying that. Like, bye, we're so happy to see you. We'll see you next time. Like, we'll see you again. Like, it's not time for you to stay here, but you'll be back. So we'll see you when you come back. And so then it was just kind of like, wow, these bunnies loved me and I loved them. But then it's like, why am I getting further away from them? And why can't I go off and see what's back over this horizon? Why can't I get further off to see what's back there? So the bunnies are getting further and further away, and it's kind of like tunnel vision, like literally, like you can see them. I'm looking through a tunnel down at them, and They're getting further and further and further away. And then I could feel myself kind of starting to float backwards. But it wasn't scary. It was like I was being held, almost kind of like I was sitting in a comfortable recliner, floating backwards into this darkness. So the bunnies now are out of my field of vision, and I'm floating back into this darkness. It was so dark, but I was not scared. I wasn't afraid of the darkness. It just felt like I was being comforted. And then all of a sudden, I'm starting to hear these voices. I'm starting to hear them louder and louder as I'm floating further and further back. And now I'm completely surrounded by darkness. And the voices are becoming louder. And then I realized what I was hearing was the surgeon closing my incision back up. And I couldn't feel it, but I could hear him clearly closing me back up. And he's talking to the nurses. And I know the nurse is on the right side of me and the surgeon is on this side of me. And I'm still knocked out. I'm still asleep, but I could hear everything that was going on. And I just felt this overwhelming need to tell them about these bunnies. I just needed to tell them about the bunnies and about what I saw, about where I was at. So I don't know how long this went on for, but when I was finally able to speak, because I had been trying to speak, been trying to talk, but nothing was happening. And when I was finally able to talk, I was able to open up my eyes. So my eyes were open now. And my friend that was sitting to the left of me, she was like, "Oh my gosh, Ty, you scared the hell out of me." And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I just want to tell you about these bunnies. And so the nurse that was sitting, there was a nurse actually sitting next to me at a computer in my chart, documenting things. And she was like, "Oh, you're awake." She was like, "You gave us all a scare." And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? What happened? And she was like, "Well, you stopped breathing." And I was like, "I did?" She was like, "Yeah, you stopped breathing." Now, when I tell y'all I was in that field for a whole afternoon, I was literally there for what felt like a whole afternoon. But I had only stopped breathing for like a minute and a half. And my heart didn't stop. My heart was still beating, but I had just completely stopped breathing. I went into respiratory failure. And I said, "Oh, well, the bunnies, there were so many bunnies. And the nurse was like, I just told you stopped breathing. Why are you telling me about bunnies?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know why I'm telling you about these bunnies. Beats me, I don't know. But I just feel the need to tell you." Now, y'all, I had to pop in here really quickly with a voiceover because I forgot to mention when I was filming that when I woke up, my lip was busted. My inside of my lip was busted. My teeth were hurting, and I did not understand why. And it's because I had to be resuscitated. So they had to bag me, which is basically where they use an apparatus that they put over your mouth and your nose to pump air back into your lungs. And in order to do that correctly, they had to make sure the seal around the apparatus that goes around your nose and your mouth is really suctioned on there. So they basically had to slam it down over my mouth, which caused them to bust my lip. All right, back to the story. So anyway, they got me upstairs to the floor, got me settled in a room. My friend went to my apartment to check on my animals, and then my mom met her at the apartment the next day. Now, my mom could not be at the hospital with me that night that all this happened because it was so far out. She can't see in the dark to drive, and her and my dad were at home, and my dad was going through his health issue at that time, so they weren't able to come out to the hospital. But my friend was there, so I was so grateful to her for being there. But anyway, she left and she checked on my animals, and my mom met her at my apartment the next day, and I remained in the hospital for a couple of days. I was on some very, very, very strong antibiotics to clear out the infection, to make sure that it was wiped out completely. And the doctor that was following me at the hospital said, wow, we don't know how this happened. It ended up being some form of strep, S-T-R-P, strep, that I guess lives on the skin and had gotten into the incision. Maybe when they pulled the drain, I don't know how, when, why, but that's what happened. So y'all, I went through a major bout of depression after that, trying to wrap my head around what I had just experienced, because I was not here on earth. I know that. And I was not in my physical body. I know that. And the amount of peace and love that I felt when I was in that field, when I was looking at those bunnies and communicating with those bunnies, like telepathically, not verbally, but telepathically communicating with them. The amount of love and peace that I felt, it was just overwhelming. It just felt so good. But here on earth, in my real life, I was not experiencing any of that. And I started to wonder, like, why? Why can't I feel that here? So life was lifing, and my dad's health started declining kind of quickly over the course of a few months. And then in April of 2022, my dad passed away. So it was all about dealing with that and work and family issues, a lot of drama, and processing my dad's transition. And I went into a very, very, very deep depression, trying to wrap my head around everything that had happened. And it took me years to really tap into that experience and try to break that down. That experience I had when I was sitting in that field. So after doing a little bit of research, coming across some other folks that had some similar stories, a couple of them kind of validating my experience with these specifically yellow wildflowers in this field, when they had a similar experience that they named a near-death experience. I thought to myself, is that what I had? There's no way that I had a near-death experience. There's no way that that's what I had experienced. I was in denial for a little bit. But then again, when I think about the amount of love and peace and joy that I felt sitting in that field for that afternoon, I knew that that's exactly what it was. And the bunnies that I saw, I started to understand were probably spirits that knew me, that I knew on the other side before I came to be in this life, in my physical body on this earth. See, I truly believe that we do reincarnate, that we have many, many lives. I feel like we get to be on the other side to experience all the love, the joy, the peace there, to connect closer to our higher being, whomever you believe that to be for yourself. For me, it's God. And I feel like we come back to this plane, to earth, to learn, to grow spiritually, so that when we go back, we can become and get closer to God. I feel like it's all about elevating our spiritual selves. And there are certain things that we have to experience here in our physical bodies and learn and go through so that we can elevate and become closer with our higher power. What I experienced, I believe, is just a little taste of that. And that's why these bunnies, these other spiritual beings on the other side, I knew them before. They knew me. And they were so happy to see me. But it wasn't my time to be there. Now, I didn't realize how serious the infection was and how bad in shape I was. But apparently I was in such bad shape that I left my body and immediately went to this field. But it wasn't my time. It wasn't my time. And I feel like the reason that I went through the depression, besides my dad's passing, is because I've been seeking to feel that kind of love, that amount of love and peace here. But I can't find it. I can't feel it. Not anything close to what I felt there. But I also realized, because I was angry for so long about things that had happened in my life and my life not turning out the way that I wanted it to, that I envisioned, not having a partner, not having a husband or a boyfriend, not having children in my 40s, childless, feeling lost, not having the career that I envisioned having, making all this money, being financially stable. I was none of that. But then I started to realize that you're not going to feel that amount of love and peace here on this earth, because we're here for a purpose. We're here to go through whatever experiences we need to go through to become closer to our higher being. And that's okay. That's okay. I am open to experiencing whatever I'm supposed to experience, so that when I do go back to that field, to that other plane, I'll feel that love again. I'll feel that peace and that joy, and I can be closer to my higher power. It's all about elevating. It's all about elevating. And really and truly, it's all about love. There's so much turmoil happening here, and especially now in 2025. There are so many lost souls. There's so much suffering and pain. And I feel like I've always been intuitive. I've always felt so deeply. When I was a child, I was a whiny child. Like, I felt everything. I felt everybody's emotions, and I picked them up and I carried them as my own. So I feel things here. And in reconciling what happened to me, having that experience, I'm learning that it's okay to empathize, to show empathy and grace to people that are hurting and suffering, but I don't have to take that on as my own. I understand now, and I realize that everybody has their own path that they have to walk in this life. I have my own path I have to walk down so that I can fulfill my purpose, so that I can be closer to my higher power when I go back. But the anger, I have to let it go. I can't allow myself to become trapped in negativity, because that only brings negative energy to me. Depression, anxiety, fear. These are the things that I believe keep us stuck and prevent us from fulfilling our purpose. So now that I've kind of reconciled that, I've completely shifted the way I see things here. I'm changing the way that I'm living my life, and I am learning to lead with love and understanding in a non-judgmental way, not judging others, not judging myself, not judging situations, just kind of observing, being present in the experience, whatever the experience is, and learning from it. But at the end of it all, I know it's all about love. So that's why at the end of all of my videos, I always tell y'all to make sure you tell someone you love them today, and to love on yourselves, because truly, it is all about love. And when we transition, I can guarantee you that is what you will experience on the other side. Love. And we've got to embrace that here while we're in our physical bodies. We've got to do that. We've got to start showing love to others, not just our family, not just our friends, but just as human beings, being kinder to one another, extending grace to one another. And even when somebody comes at you with what could be deemed as hatred, responding back to them with love, because that is what it's all about. So yeah, y'all, that is my story time for this Sunday. I am so happy to have been able to share this with you, and I really hope you all got something from it. Comment down below. Let me know if you've ever experienced anything like this. Let me know if you got anything from the story. I'd be thrilled to hear from you all with any of your thoughts, any of your experiences, and I would love to engage with you about this. So yeah, comment down below, let me know. And if you got anything from this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up and share it. Share it with someone that you feel can get something from it. And I hope it's love. I really do. Y'all, until next time, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being a part of Ty's Table Talk and this experience today. Thank you so much. And as always, y'all, stay safe. Stay safe out here in these streets, because there's some crazy stuff happening. So stay safe. Stay blessed. And do not forget to tell someone you love them today. And most importantly, make sure you love on yourselves, because when you do that, you're able to show love to everyone else. I love y'all. Peace.